We all want it, don't we? We want maximum output for minimum input. For instance, we all want to have all the money we need, but we want to do as little work as possible to get it. That's the attraction of the lottery. Pay $1 or two for the possibility of getting $1 million or more instantly. Even though to a certain extent we've been programmed by God to do this, is this the best strategy for every activity at work or at home or at Toastmasters? Let's explore this with a few common examples and see if applying a minimum input will result in the maximum output of memorable speeches or more capable leadership in Toastmasters and beyond. We spend much of our lives refining every action to make it more efficient. That is, we perfect getting a maximum output for a minimum input every day. We do it without thinking. Fascinating, isn't it? Children in American schools are perfect examples of this. They are trained from an early age to achieve the maximum output, good grades, by expending a minimum input, that is, work and thinking. Because of this, schools in our culture are developing perfect automatons, students focused on one thing, getting the golden good grade. The only problem most students creatively solve is, what is the least I can do to get the grade my parents think is acceptable? This is all because we live in a goal-oriented culture rather than a process or journey-oriented culture. Another example. Have you ever been given the task of getting a toddler from point A to point B in a certain amount of time? Just the question indicates goal orientation and strikes fear. Toddlers aren't old enough to have fully adopted our goal-driven culture. They will generally frustrate your efforts by taking joy in each task involved in the process, from examining a loose thread in their clothes to smelling a flower to riding a gate. To our goal-conscious culture, this seems like a flagrant waste of time. In the meantime, they're enjoying themselves to the fullest. In Toastmasters, this maximum output, minimum input tendency works against us sometimes and for us at other times. When does it work against us? As a Toastmaster, you want the output of the perfect speech, but the input of writing and rehearsing it seems like so much work. Often you want to minimize your input so much that you give an impromptu, unwritten, unrehearsed 5 to 7 minute speech. Sometimes that works, and your speech, your output is okay. For some people, it works way more often than is fair. But for most of us, we have to put in the work to at least sketch out our ideas in an outline and rehearse our speech at least once before the actual meeting. That is, we have to work against this tendency to minimize our input, our preparation. We have to put in the work and practice to speak well. When does this tendency work for us? The more effort we consistently put in over time, the less effort we eventually have to give to get our maximum output, a great speech. That is, the more often we write speeches, rehearse, and give them, the better we get at giving speeches and the fewer nerves we have. Although getting nervous never completely disappears for most of us. For many of you who have given speeches often, it seems you can give full-length speeches more or less impromptu. But truthfully, that's because you've become more efficient. You've put in so much input that the output is becoming easier. When you stop giving speeches, get out of practice, it becomes harder again. That is, when you stop putting in the writing and the practice, even if the practice is giving the speeches themselves, you become worse at speaking. This works in leadership as well. The Toastmaster framework has been developed to minimize your input to obtain a maximum output overall. But first, it takes a lot of effort to learn the framework. That is a lot of input. All those aspects to pay attention to and fill out and make sure your club knows about: the club success plan, the moments of truth, the distinguished club program. It seems like so much work, too much input. Surely it's not worth it. But once you get used to it, the structure works for you. You can build on others' leadership when you fill out documents and get help from mentors and previous leaders. Once you get the ball rolling, it seems like less input for the maximum output of club members meeting their goals and clubs, areas, divisions, and even districts becoming distinguished. Even though we want to do as little work, put in as little input as possible, if you have a goal of moving forward in your speaking and leadership journey, I want to encourage you to get a mentor to help focus your input to get the most out of Toastmasters. What is the output you want? That is, what are your Toastmaster goals? Do you want to give memorable speeches with fewer nerves? Do you want to improve your leadership abilities? Let others help you get your ball rolling, help you with your input so you can meet your goals. When we help each other maximize our outputs, we all win.